seen police, we've seen fire, and now we're doing IT. Welcome, Craig Cooper.
All right. So, yeah, turn on your microphone, please.
I'm sorry.
So the IT, we're moving things around a little bit. The salary for IT was originally in the manager's budget, but we've actually created an IT department so that we can start to look at the total cost of IT services for us. So thanks to Tom and Dale for creating more codes and moving those things. Craig and I have been working together on mapping our system and looking at a strategic plan for how we're going to handle purchases in the future as far as where computers are going to go. And, you know, Craig has done a really amazing job at networking our stuff and making sure our servers are in place that we need, and also making sure that the security is there. And although we did have a security breach, it wasn't anything that we could have stopped in any way, shape, or form. So that really weighed heavy on Craig's mind.
We got hit with a crypto virus, and it did take down the system. But working with KVS and with Munis, we had a disaster recovery up the next day for Munis with Dale, and we had payroll up and running that Wednesday. So we lost actually no time at all on the server system. We did lose some files on the personal PCs because personal PCs don't get backed up, but there was little or no data loss at all for the servers. And it took a while to get everything going because it was a really nasty virus. It took me about a week to get things straightened out. Things are straightened out, and they're actually in better shape now than they were before.
What is the backup for computers? How do you back up?
Well, we back up a few ways. Let's take KVS, for instance, KVS servers. KVS has its own offline backup. I back up to Buffalo. I also use a company called Carbonite, which is an offline backup. I also back up locally to removable hard drives. So we have 3 backups for these systems.
Why? How many people? How many personal computers are there out there?
Have, let's say, in this building, 30 to 40.
Okay, so
Again, I'm counting the town as well because they're on our network.
And village-wide.
Village-wide, I'm sorry, off the top of my head more, yeah.
Okay.
More than 30 or 40,
60,
which is already a lot.
let's say 75.
Okay, so legal department lost its files, right?
Stuart lost the files that were on his desktop, yes.
Okay. So what are we doing to remedy that going forward?
It was had to educate certain people that they have to save the files on the servers, and that's what we're doing now. In other words, everybody has we have a file server or 2 file servers, and they're broken up into individual people's folders, and that's where they should be saving their data.
Right, but don't you think that the legal department? I mean, so you know, something happened, and now we need to do better, right? You couldn't prevent the first one, so legal department has confidential stuff as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there are all sorts of ways now to back information up. They don't always have to go to a server, right? There are things that you could put things on the cloud, or you could give him his own backup system.
Well, he saves onto a folder which is private on a server, which gets backed up there. In fact, with the Carbonite backup, it gets backed up continuously. So, for instance, if he's writing a file now, 2 minutes later, that gets backed up to a cloud.
So there are a lot of computers out there. So training and education is one of your solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Has that happened?
It's an ongoing process, yes.
But may I add to that?
Yeah, I'm done.
Wanted to, is there a way that I mean I totally get, you know, once we better train our staff to save on the correct drive, right? There's no way to back up. I mean, like I consider each computer. I don't care what your role is in government, a governmental computer, right? So there's no way that each of those computers can back up on their own, in addition to the drive. So in case, let's see,
yes,
Rika forgets to save her work in counsel's office or whatever office she's in, and she doesn't save it there, like she could lose all her work because
Right. Yes, I could do a backup for each individual workstation with Carbonite. It gets quite costly. I think our Carbonite bill this year is between like $7,000 and $10,000 just for offsite backups. And if I were to back up every single workstation, it would be considerably higher. In hindsight, it may be worth doing that. Maybe we should, budget some money to do that, but it comes down to dollars and cents.
it's
We
it.
really think that the solution is to program the computers so that they save to the servers and we don't have to worry
Something
about
that's
it.
guaranteed.
And what
Yeah,
I've
which-
shared
which
with
it
Craig
does,
is that, I'm kind of ignorant as to part, like, am I saving it to the server? Am I saving it to my local drive? So it really has to be kind of idiot proof, if you can, because it just automatically has to go there and we have to program them to do that.
But right now it hasn't been programmed. But
Oh no, they
everybody-
do. It does that now, but the thing is, that's too very simplistic. In other words, if you're in a Word, if you're doing a Word document, you hit save, it will save to a folder. Okay, but if you don't want it to go to that folder, you want to put it to a different folder. Then it's a manual operation.
Right.
Wait,
This is
hold
what the
up.
training comes in.
What's done now? You said that you're suggesting that we find a way to automatically set it up where when you save, it'll go to the correct area where we'll keep
Right.
it and retain it.
Right.
But you're saying that if we save it a different way, that won't happen.
It goes to one. It'll go to one directory,
Okay.
but then it's up to the user to put it in the directory he wants it to really to go to. In other words, you have subdirectories in a directory. For instance, we have a directory called Finance, and in that Finance directory, there are 200 subdirectories. So it's up to the user to pick that subdirectory he wants the data to go into.
So
That's
even
where the
though
education comes in.
the placement will be put in whatever subfolder they want, if that's what they're doing, unless they don't manually do it, then
It goes to a
setting it
folder.
up automatically still won't fix the issue.
It goes to a folder on the server, which means it's saved. Okay. But then it's up to the user to put it into the correct folder that he wants, where he or she wants it to go, or else he'll never find it.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, as from a process perspective, why given the nature of stuff, why we would even have folders on the local drive. That I think all the folders need to be on the server, and that you don't really have. I mean, if you want to set up different folders on the server, then that's fine. And so I think we, from an idiot-proof perspective, I think anything that's created of any kind of a document, needs to be automatically saved to the server.
Well, it does. We have a.
Well, but you've just said that that's. In other words, I'm just saying, can't we just eliminate the local drive folders so there's just not the possibility of that ever happening?
Well, when you save a folder, in other words, I have something we call H drives. The H drives are the individualized folders, which are mapped to the computer. That's where they go automatically. Okay, but some people just want to save locally. They use their desktop as a folder, so they see things right there in front of them. If you would go look at some of the computers in this building, look at the desktop. There's 300 icons on the desktop because that's where they save their stuff because it's very convenient to get
Well,
to.
then shame on them.
Yeah.
Well, no, I just think
it's a lack of understanding.
Yeah, no,
it's-
I just
It's an educational thing.
That's why I said it's a.
because I don't want to beat a dead horse. My last point is just I agree with the training aspect of it. I just do want to learn what it would cost to back up the personal folders. I mean,
You could put that in place, but if you don't explain to people how to do that, I
Right.
mean, I use.
No,
an
it would
H drive,
automatically
an
be
H
done.
drive. This is not brain surgery. It's been around for 10 years. This is not efficient to have this many computers. It isn't being done right. You could say that the people aren't doing it right, and you're going to walk desk to desk to 70 people every year and explain to them how to do stuff. What training is going on beyond one person walking desk to desk? We train people on everything else. What training is in place for a group of people to understand how to use the technology we have and what future technology looks like? Do you have a plan for that? Because you cannot have an individual walking around to 70 people sitting.
oh yeah, no, I understand that.
And so it wouldn't matter how great the
No,
system is.
all
it
the
wouldn't matter how bad
municipalities,
it
all
is.
the municipalities already have it automatic. That they don't even need training because it already
It's
is done.
automatic.
That was just my
We've been
point.
doing it for 10 years, and I can't
Yeah.
believe we're still working with this. So you and I are in total agreement. The issue is that we're going one to one to one, rather than looking at human beings, we train people on everything here. Like, what do you have that people sit in this room and get taught on how to deal with the systems that we have? And out of that training, what usually happens is two things. Number one, light bulbs go off and go, oh, that's what I was supposed to do. I didn't know that. And it is not efficient for one person to walk around to every individual. It's not the way you teach people, first of all. Second of all, people learn from each other sitting in a room. Departments learn from each other and now, oh, I do this. So look, I have a job where I put everything on a P drive, right? Everybody in my department, so that 200 people can go on a public drive and download stuff that they need. But somebody at some point trained me. Somebody said, listen, in marketing, you should always put, if nobody ever told me that, and all they did was fix what I was doing, I would never have advanced, okay? And neither would anybody that comes to work for me. There has to be consistencies across departments. There has to be consistencies on how people work and how things are saved and how things are backed up, and people should understand. So what do you have for IT that talks about training and a plan and an audit of computers and making sure people are doing what they're supposed to be doing? So even if you have not a great system, you're still better off than having a great system, but people don't use it the way it's like having a race car, but you don't know how to use leadership. You know what I mean?
No, I
I
agree.
know you're in agreement with me. I mean, we're saying the same thing. So what's in the budget for that?
So we have one of the new positions that I talked about yesterday was a full-time IT technician that can be the troubleshooter and the trainer. And the other thing that we have in our budget for this year is hiring a company to come in and map our system for us so that we know exactly how things are working and who has what and what our strategy is going to be for replacing things, but also for training. One of the challenges that we've had is being able to utilize properly the computer softwares. I mean, I'm kind of going around the bush on your question, but I'll bring it back. And it's, are we using our computer softwares as efficiently as we could? Are we maximizing the capabilities of that software? And then looking at the, who can we bring in? The board has said to me, bring in somebody to get this software up and running. That's what you're going to have to do. And so what we're looking at is somebody that can give us some pricing on what that's going to cost, and also to review the software that we're using to see if it's really the right software for the functions that we're trying to achieve. So there's a lot of things kind of working all in tandem. Because we do realize that there is a lot of education on just the use of the software, but then there's the education on how to use the computers. And everybody, I think Craig would agree with this, is, everybody's just used to their own routine and how they save things and how they process things. And I think that we're going to have to change that mindset a little bit, but we don't, there's some basic things that I think that we need to put in place before we can get to the education of being efficient and then changing out the computers and things like that. We do need help, so there's money in this budget to hire some additional help.
So the new position of technical support specialist, is their salary 75 grand a year?
I don't know. It's an earmark thing, but
Okay,
That's what's in there right now.
that's what's in there right now. Okay, so with that, because there's a $69,000 difference between uh, what's being requested this year and last year. So is that the new position?
Well,
Or-
we moved Greg's general fund salary
Mhm.
piece from the
Down there.
1230 budget to his own 1650 budget. So that
Right.
It's an accounting shift.
yeah, it just moved it from one account to the other
Okay,
because I wanted it to be more transparent. Here, this is the salary, these are the positions, this is the IT budget, this is what we're buying for equipment, instead of having it all over the place
Okay.
so that you can't really find it.
Okay.
I think that it's better for all of you to know this is what we're spending, this is the equipment what we're buying, and this is where it's all going.
okay, gotcha. Okay, thank you.
My only last point is in addition to what is being presented, I would like to know what the additional cost would be to back up personal
You
computers.
can certainly look into that.
That's all. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just for us to know.
Right.
Audit, give me the plan for an audit. What exactly are they auditing?
It's more of a mapping,
Okay.
not an audit
Okay.
per se, because we don't really need an audit. Craig knows exactly where everything is, but I think for risk and security purposes, we need to have that mapped out so that if something should happen and Craig decides he's going to go to Hawaii tomorrow and he's never coming back, someone has to be able to pick that up and know exactly what our systems are and what we have in place. So part of it is to do that. And then the secondary part is to actually look at how we're connected and can that be improved from a networking perspective.
And so that's going to take place this year,
Yes.
but that was budgeted last year.
It's the contract will be initiated in 18. It'll probably take us 3 months into the first quarter of next year
Okay.
to finish that up. But I mean, that's the real initiative for IT is to figure out exactly where we're at and what we need to, how we need to maneuver. Craig has it all up here. God bless him. But
Well, we have some on paper.
he has it all up here. But again, I think that we just need to be able to talk through what are the things that we need to fix. For example, programming the computer so that when you create a new drive or a new folder, it's a folder that's on the server, not a folder on your local drive. You know, those kind of things.
I just want to explain one thing about working with computers here. Finance department and the outer departments that do entry into Munis, let's say, they work on a system called RDP. Okay, what that means, it's called Remote Desktop Protocol. So in other words, they're not working, they're looking at their personal computer, but they're not working on their personal computer. They're working on the server. So what they're working on is actually on the server. Whatever they're doing is on that server and getting backed up on that server. They're not on their PC side. And that's why we were able to lose no data at all from when we had the system crash. As far as backup cost goes, it's not a cost per computer, it's a cost per storage. So we're paying, I don't know the exact amount, let's say $10,000 right now for storage space. We just have to buy more storage space, and we can back up all the personal PCs.
You know, yeah, I'm happy that finance is protected. I just would like that assurance in all departments. I mean, because not all roles work through the server through a software. So, but yeah, I mean,
And again, all my users are not really computer people. They're pigeonholed into a piece of software that they use. So you're right. So they need training on how to serve, how to save. So in this way, if I do back up all the PCs, we're in better shape. We can certainly do that.
So the mapping you were talking about is a technology study from 2018.
So I see the in the year-to-year comparison that we have in the white book for IT. I see the additional person identified here with a placeholder of 75,000. I'm not seeing it in the salary schedule.
No, new positions aren't in the
They're not?
salary schedule. Wow. I just had a brain
I know what
fart.
you meant.
They are not listed in there until they're approved by the board. And then in the final budget, they would, if you approve the additional people, they will be put into the salary.
So it's a full-time position. That doesn't include the benefits and all that. It just is the straight salary, 75.
Right, because the benefits would be in the benefit category, but those were calculated in.
Okay.
How long are we keeping this technology specialist?
I think we're gonna have them
Ever?
permanently because there's always things that are breaking down or you know, my computer won't turn on today or my monitor's broke or, you know, my copier, you know, jammed or, I mean, there's always something that has to go on.
You don't do IT for the police department, right? They have their own IT people.
Correct.
So this would be for what? This building and all its occupants?
All buildings.
All building.
Except for police, because police have their own.
And so except for police, what is that? The judges, the town, the this, they have their own? How does this work?
Op center, rec,
I handle everything. Op center,
That's what I'm saying,
recreation,
yeah.
the
Right.
town court,
fire.
town highway, everything.
Water.
In the fire department, I only handle one computer. The other computers are purchased by the fire departments. The one computer is because that's the one they use for data entry for. But I do maintain all their networks.
So my expectation would be for the consultant is I think you know, obviously you're going to go in and do this mapping exercise, and it's, you know, my sense is that you're just sort of validating what the current state is, correct? Like
Well,
the current state of your technology map, you know, where the computers are, you've got an inventory of all your lines, all your equipment, all the other kind of stuff. You're going to have inventory, all your software. In other words, there's going to be this map or this current state validation that says this is where we are now, this is where you find everything, correct?
That's part of it.
Okay.
But the secondary part would be
well,
the long range plan.
well, that's the idea, is that you project a future state model. You get a kind of laundry list of things that you could do to either improve a best practice or drive towards better technology, or better software. You know, I would be interested to understand, the usage of different software packages to see if they're even relevant. You know, we could have software licenses for things that are highly underused. So why would we have so many licenses? This is a kind of analysis I would hope that
Right.
we would get from this particular firm, is that, you know, obviously we want to know where we are, we want to know where we want to go, but, you know, I think we not only need to look at hardware, but we need to look at the software licensing and all that other stuff. And that would be my expectation, with the consultant.
So what is it? What is the technology specialist? What's the primary job?
Troubleshooter.
Troubleshooter.
Mm-hmm.
In the technology, right? So everything's connected to the computer. So that includes fax machines, phones, and copiers, doesn't it?
Yes. Absolutely.
So the mapping includes all of that as well.
Yes, it does.
And best practices for, you know, when I leave this position, I know we're still going to be discussing phones, right?
I expect to have a solution on that
I
one.
think. Okay. Okay. In what year? I just got elected for 2-year term.
20.
Excuse the sarcasm, but
2020.
honestly, phones. We're still
Right.
talking about phones.
Yeah.
Okay.
2020.
And we have cell phones that aren't connected to anything.
Right.
That's also should be in the mapping, right? Because
Right.
taxpayers pay for all that
Who
stuff.
has them?
And
How
how
are
we
they
get
used?
forwarded calls and not my little pink slips that I get because somebody called me a week ago. Like I'd like to actually, because it actually will save, in my opinion, all of this stuff saves on people actually. On people who are doing jobs that they should be used for other more important jobs than,
Right.
than this.
I agree.
Okay, and maybe a reduction in copiers. I mean, where I work, we don't use fax machines anymore. The problem with government is that we still have requests where we can only accept forms if they're faxed over. So there's things that this mapping should say, like,
Right.
you can get rid of 4 fax machines if you change the rule that you need a fax copy for somebody to be filing this permit.
Right.
So I know you're looking this way. Mapping is more than, machine X 6
Absolutely.
or 311 or something like that, right?
Right. Because you can buy copier machines that also scan and fax and receive faxes.
Release
So
them,
you
yeah.
eliminate pieces of equipment by buying the right piece of equipment that can handle a lot of things in an office.
That's a perfect segue to what I was gonna ask next. I know that, and let me know if this is an appropriate form or not for this, but you mentioned that, not sure if it was IT or not, but the possibility of streamlining our copiers or bringing them together. So
That's the idea of this.
so
Right.
do we currently lease our machines?
So there are quite a few. Tom provided me a list several weeks ago, and we looked at when the leases expire. There's one that we haven't renewed because I think we can get rid of that copier. Right now, it's in the planning and the building department. Well, they're all in the same room, so they can use the same copier. So, and it's an older machine, and Craig has an idea of the brand that works the best for us. But what we really want to do is ask some of the salespeople to come in and say, can you consolidate our leases? But that really has to come when we look at all of the desktop copiers that we have, because we have a ton of them. And
So we still have multiple leases with different vendors for copiers.
we do.
You have to look at the vouchers.
Okay.
We
Okay.
do. And I have that list if you're interested in seeing what they are and what brands they are. Tom put that together.
Okay.
But the idea would be to make sure that we're purchasing a copier that can be serviced by a company on a regular basis so it's not breaking down, but it also provides the functionality that we need
Do all that
to
she
run
said.
the right. So if a fax comes in, the fax line's tied into that and it just spits out and yeah.
May said we
I
still
mean, I
have
don't
So-
even know why we have fax machines.
So how do we arrive
Right.
at the $75,000 for the technology specialist?
We went like this.
No, no, seriously. How did,
Honestly, she has to put a placeholder. When you
It's a
talk about
placeholder.
Salaries for people in the world of IT. I think you said troubleshooter, which is frankly a better description. So
Right.
we have lots of popcorn. This thing breaks over here. Everybody has to run and fix it. This thing, you can never get ahead because you're running and troubleshooting this thing that was actually broken, or the person using it didn't know
How to
use it because they simply don't know how to.
Ask
send it.
Craig.
But no, I work with this. I mean, and I'm sympathetic to it. It's like popcorn popping everywhere. And he's got to get in the car to go.
Right.
If you have a troubleshooter, you get two things done, right? Number one, they solve problems so somebody else can actually move things forward. Number two, what you have is somebody who can come back and say 14 people are crashing this because they're all doing this, which is wrong.
Right.
You've got to get these 14 people in the room and say, stop doing this, or stop using this printer this way, or stop printing everything out in color because it costs a fortune for this organization, because you don't need everything in color. You should be using black and white, and all the equipment should be done in black and white. We went through an audit. It is the key to an audit. I'm sorry, the key to the mapping. Whatever you pay for the mapping, you should see a saving. If you're hiring somebody to do mapping, and you do not get at least that back in savings, you did something wrong.
Right.
but we didn't do the mapping yet.
Mapping goes first. Are you hiring someone first, or the mapping first, or simultaneous?
We're hiring somebody to help us do the mapping.
Wait,
And
is
to
that what
do
the
the
$75,000?
That's part of
No,
it.
not.
No,
I
that's
thought
just
the
a salary.
mapping was a
IT
consultant.
person.
I thought the mapping was done by a consultant.
It is done by a consultant. The
Are you
75,000.
hiring the full-time, the FTE, full-time, I'm going to call it a troubleshooter because I think it's a
Troubleshooter.
better
like that better.
description of whatever.
Yep.
Are you hiring that person as soon as you can, or are you hiring them after the mapping is done to see what you need?
Bless you.
Well, I know we're going to need the troubleshooter one way or another.
the
So
answer
I would
is
like
you're
to hire
hiring
that
them as soon as you
person as soon as possible, and then that person can also be part of the process of the review of the whole IT system.
And can I ask that from the board that we sort of table discussions about, like, not consultants with people, and go into executive session at the end of this process so that we can have a discussion about personnel and consultants and how we're hiring different pieces as we go department by department. Because otherwise we're having a long conversation. But I think if we save it all for a one-time piece, we can
Agreed.
have a real conversation about
Agreed.
it.
We can go into exec and talk
Yeah.
about, there's a few different departments with a
Across
person
all
here
the
and a person
departments.
there and figure out exactly what that is. And that's probably something we should go off camera and exec.
Right.
I would say let's do it at the end of today, except we may be in a snowstorm. I've already got everybody in my family, all their events have been canceled.
Oh.
And my children are going to be home from
Yeah,
school in
early
an hour and a
dismissal.
half. So
Yeah.
there's no soccer. DeChico's canceled a beer competition, which is unheard of. So like everything is
Really be
canceled.
snowing.
So we may not want to be here.
Yeah, I felt like kind of goes hand in hand. I don't know.
So my point is,
Yeah.
the time to do it would be at the end of today after I
But
meet
we
with
may
all these
not.
departments. But just weather-wise, we may decide that's unwise. So
Eventually.
We should all make lists for ourselves so that at the end we should, for every department, because I think this will be.
So we've already decided we're going to make Monday a little bit earlier, and many of us have someplace to go afterwards. So otherwise, Monday would be a logical time. I don't think we can make it even earlier, but yeah, especially since some of us might not even be here at 5:30. It's a little bit of a tough crunch with the regular workday. But everybody's. I think I totally agree with what Rika is saying. I don't know if we could work through lunch if we have lunch. Okay, there is not support for working through lunch. I was just going to say, I was just going to say we may want to meet with these other department heads before we have
Right.
that conversation.
I agree.
So,
I'm suggesting that actually.
Okay.
I just think we're not going to get.
so
that
weather
far
permitting, we'll do it now. If not, we'll figure it out.
later today. What else do we
5
have in
o'clock.
IT? So there's a request for a person. We're going to call it what it is, troubleshooter. There's a request for a mapping study. What else is new and exciting in the world of IT?
Everything's pretty copacetic. There's a couple of devices I'd like to buy. One is we have a Barracuda spam filter online. This is a website filter that'll filter out the bad websites. because of this issue we had. Other than that, everything's pretty much the same. I don't need any servers this year. So,
We should always be updating whatever we can to be filtering out bad whatever they
Um,
are.
Yeah,
Uh,
but if she's gonna do mapping, they're gonna talk about that too. No,
Right.
is that not a
well,
part
that's
of?
one of the reasons I
That
haven't
should be-
purchased anything yet. I'd like to find out.
So there's a placeholder anticipating
Yes.
that that's going to be the type of
Exactly.
software
I'm pretty,
that's, yeah,
I'm positive. we'll
that's a
have to purchase
likely outcome of
it. And I'll have to
recommendation.
purchase something for this building as well as the operations center since we are two separate networks.
Okay. I mean, Rika's calling the person a troubleshooter, and that's obviously going to be a big part of their day to day. But I also think the importance of having somebody else in your department that you work closely with,
Oh, absolutely.
because while I very much appreciate that you will call me from the tarmac as you're coming back from your vacation to give me an answer to an email that I sent you while you were in the plane, you should be able to go on vacation with your family and not be texting me from the gang, from the baggage claim area to tell me the answer. And your dedication and your knowledge is an incredible value to the community, and I want somebody to be able to learn it from you and support you with it and have perpetuity
Thank
of
you.
knowledge in our community. And I don't want to lose it, and I also want your family to be able to enjoy you less interrupted
And I
on your
appreciate
vacation.
that.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Are there more things with IT, or do we want to get?
I think we're good.
All right. We
Great.
didn't get too much further behind.
No.
That's the best we can say. Okay, that's not your
Thank
fault,
you.
Craig. Thanks. Actually, Craig was 32 minutes. We gave him 30 minutes. So
Do you have any interns?
I'm sorry.
Do you hire any interns?
Not for the last couple of years.
Why?
I don't know why really. I think it might be because we didn't have a pool of qualified people. Most of the people that I did see were really not at a level that I really was
Do you have a job description for interns?
not really.
Oh, so, okay. I'm just going to
a good
suggest
idea.
that
Yeah.
in your area, not that anybody listens to me because I've tried the legal department and I had to beat them up to get interns that don't cost taxpayers a penny. I'm not quite sure why people fight me on this, but there are areas where high school, college, post-college, it's great for people's resume. We have different departments that have that, but you need a job description. You really need to know what you want.
The
It's
last
really hard not to have that.
last intern I had was a high school student, and he just didn't really have the knowledge. He was here, and he was a pair of hands, but that's really not what I really needed. But I did have an intern for I think it was 3 years, a woman that was actually very very good, and unfortunately she moved out west. But she was a college student, and she was great.
Okay, so you've had positive and
Oh,
negative.
absolutely.
But I think a job, because also we can be very helpful. There are people that do come up to us and say, I've got a summer break. I'd like something. I don't want to work at McDonald's. There's nothing wrong with McDonald's, but they want something in their resume for their future career. And there's also a lot of people who are on the other end of the spectrum. They're looking for something part-time because they just want to get back into the workforce. There are a lot of women that leave the workforce in the suburbs, raise their children, want to go back, and it's a great way to start on that path in their 40s or 50s. That could be really also great. So I'm just suggesting that for an area that's all over the place and responsible for so much, this might be something that we could help with.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Craig,